Folks, hello and welcome to Tavern Chat. I'm your host, Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR. We are going to GeekWire today. It's actually a very good breakdown of Wizards of the Coast stepping on their private part. Analysis: Nobody could dethrone Dungeons and Dragons except Wizards of the Coast, and it may have done just that. So we're going to skip through this article a little bit. Uh, we all know what D&D is: explosive growth. Maybe it's going to hit a downturn. All right. The January 5th leak via IO9 and had plans to deauthorize its open game license, a public copyright notice that the company adopted in 2000 under the version 1.0A of the OGL. Other companies were free to create, publish, and even monetize original material. Over the ensuing 23 years, the OGL led to the creation of a robust industry. Certainly did. It's generally assumed that D&D enjoys a majority share of the tabletop gaming audience. And 2019 report on Roll20 that just over 51% of the games being played on its service in quarter three of 2019 were based on D&D. And that's an important quarter. That's pre-pandemic. We haven't gotten any OR reports, as these are known, since this year, 2022 and 2023. So it's been a year since we've gotten any of these updates. I expect the share to be about the same. Pure numbers are always a little fugazi. The COVID numbers boosted all the online play up. D&D has built a big part of that market dominance off the back of the OGL for 3 editions in 2 decades. And effectively, Wizards of the Coast outsources a lot of game material, especially weird niche stuff, to third-party creators. All right. What Wizards' current management didn't seem to understand or appreciate was that messing with the OGL had effectively become a third rail. As early as November, and I had spoken about this, remember that Wizards would repeal or replace the OGL as part of its current 1D&D initiative was enough to cause its own quiet controversy. And again, back then, companies were under the impression that OGL 1.0A would get revoked if you signed up for 2.0, and 1D&D was only under 2.0. So some of them were saying, oh, we're going to split off another entity. The one will be under the old OGL, one will be under the new OGL. Okay. The discussion came at roughly the same time as Wizards of the Coast parent company Hasbro had its stock downgraded on charges that Wizard had oversaturated the market for its collectible card game Magic the Gathering. Why would they do that? Well, it's a cash cow. It's the golden goose that lays the golden eggs. But when it doesn't lay them fast enough, or you want more, you squeeze. And when you squeeze, negative things happen. Hasbro previously reported a 15% loss of revenue for quarter three 2022 financial results. Then, in early December 2022, reports emerged that Wizards of the Coast CEO Cynthia Williams had attended an investors meeting where she described D&D as under monetized. That's where we got that the 20% of gamers, D&D players that are DMs were buying the majority of the D&D material. By the way, I'm sure what they're looking at there was D&D 5e stuff, not third-party stuff, their own branded material. That set the scene for the D&D community to expect some naked money grab from Hasbro. And then the January 5th leak hit, which confirmed many fans' most cynical thoughts. As per the leak, Wizards had considered an update to the OGL that would put much more power in Wizards' hands. Under the original OGL 1.0A, independent creators don't even have to tell Wizards they're making a D&D product. Under the replacement 1.1, the same creators will suddenly have owed Wizards royalties, earnings reports, and at least partial licensing rights on any published D&D work, past or present, and, of course, let them know, hey, I'm writing Tenkar's Book of Taverns. Okay, do you agree with it? Is it good enough? Mm-hmm. Wizards took a full 8 days to retract the leak. That was horribly stupid way to deal with a public relations nightmare. You can only hide your head so much. That was head hiding, which was more than enough time for things to explode. It appears to have been the road to Damascus moment where players, analysts, and competing developers have all simultaneously realized it might not actually be healthy for Wizards and D&D to occupy that much of the tabletop gaming space. Reactions to the 1.1 included a boycott of the D&D's digital storefront, D&D Beyond, the hashtag openD&D to keep the original OGL in place, Paizo coming up with its Orc Coalition, the license that includes under over 1,500 companies now. Take that with a small grain of salt. It is 1,500 creators, large companies, one-man shows like myself, Joe Block, others like us. Includes people who haven't even published yet but are interested in publishing under an open license. Kobold Press and their Black Flag project. Free League has announced it will develop 2 new open game licenses of its own, which cover its Year Zero engine RPGs like Alien, Blade Runner, The Walking Dead, and its upcoming English version of Dragonbane. And, this is a public relations nightmare for Wizards of the Coast and for the D&D brand. So, damage control. The Wizards' first part does seem aware there's a problem as a follow-up to his January 13th apology, which was really gaslighting to the extent that I couldn't believe it. Wizards announced a significantly changed version of the OGL on the 19th. That's about 5 days ago. In air quotes, OGL 1.2 claims it is subject to be changed based on community feedback. And yes, it took out the royalty payment, no financial reporting, no license back, no registration, no distinction between commercial and non-commercial. And your current OGL 1.0 stuff apparently can stay there. However, Creative Commons for the mechanics. That's interesting. I've spoken with lawyers that have different opinions on how important that is. I am not a lawyer, so I will withhold my opinion on it. I do find it an interesting event. However, this is the part where I'm going to tell you this is where Wizards somehow has decided it is going to plant its flag. It's the hill to die on. The decision is tied to another feature of OGL 1.2, the explicit deauthorization of OGL 1.0a. This step is being taken as per Brink to allow Wizards of the Coast to use protective options. That would be impossible under the terms of the 1.0a in order to let Wizards act to address offensive or hurtful content published by third parties for D&D. We want an inclusive, safe play space for everyone. So don't expect any products that are going to push an envelope. It is going to be under 1.2. You are looking at a very sanitized gaming experience for third-party publishers. You want my personal opinion? I think you know it. I think it's bullshit. I think if you want and again, when they throw out words like inclusive, they are checking boxes because inclusivity does not happen in the game book. Okay? If I'm buying something, I generally know before I run it for my group, I will have read it. And before I buy it, I'll probably have looked for reviews or a product blurb. And if it says, mature players only or whatever, 18 and above, I'll give it a really hard look. Nobody is picking up one of Wenger Santana's books and 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 going, oh, you know what? I'll just read this at the table and run it. First off, Wenger doesn't even publish under the OGL, as far as I understand. So, inclusive, safe play space. Books don't do that. Books don't do that. Who does that? The DM, the players, maybe a convention, organized play. I suspect with the inclusive, safe play space, that's your VTT, which we're going to get to in a second. But Wizards' new VTT, don't be surprised if there's an inclusion like report your DM or fellow players for abusive or offensive or falling into an ist potentially, maybe with a bad off-color joke, and people are going to be put into that because the only way I know of giving an inclusive, safe play space for everyone is for the DM and the players to ensure that. Not your books, not your VTT, none of this. The players, the DM, and that's why pickup groups are a little hard. You don't know if you're going to get that social miscreant. I'm saying that kindly. It says show up at your game that nobody's really vetted, and you had that issue. You don't have these issues with organic groups that grow up amongst a group of friends or people from a common community. These are those pickup groups. These are those groups maybe in a store. I expect that all the organized players are going to move to the VTT. Again, better to control. Don't expect Wizards of the Coast to do anything to really further the play experience. They are setting up a certain environment that you will need to fit into. My guess. Other provisions of 1.2 include a couple of unusual shots across the bow at independently produced virtual tabletops. It states that any VTT that simply reproduces the experience of sitting around the table, playing D&D with your friends, is fine. But you can't have things like custom spell animations. Why? Why? How is that even part of it? So, Wizards' insistence on deauthorizing the original OGL has led to an ongoing argument whether it's legal to do so. I've heard the argument from multiple sides. Believe me, I live the argument from multiple sides. I would personally say it, in my opinion, as a layman, it is not legal, but Wizards of the Coast will likely outspend anybody else in the court of law and will try to bankrupt you if you fight them on it. My guess. That doesn't help their public perception, does it? But I don't know if they're really that worried. Because unless you're wired in, you're not going to know their public perception except through the movie and the TV show. It's going to be on what? Paramount? At the inception of the OGL, Wizards widely represented at 1.0A with an irrevocable contract with obligations for both Wizards and participating publishers. Azora Law's Brian Lewis. They're the ones that are working on the Orc open license. I couldn't remember. Kit Walsh, senior staff attorney at Electronic Frontier Foundation, has said that this position has clear support under Washington law, which holds that, unlike a license without consideration, an offer to contract cannot be revoked unilaterally once it's been accepted. So it seems like 1.0 should still be around, but it doesn't look like that. And I really do think this is the hill they plan on dying for. Wizards of the Coast is not going to give up on their ability or their threat to take away 1.0. Now, they're saying here a legal argument could be that Wizards doesn't have to offer the terms of the 1.0 way to future third-party publishers, but it isn't able to revoke that contract from anyone who's already accepted it. Companies that have already published D&D books in the last 22 years, theoretically clear, to continue to do so under 1.0A, but newcomers to the field would have to abide by different rules. That is certainly possible. Then they talk about some of the social media pushback, Spelljammer, which, again, Wizards of the Coast, self-inflicted wounds. These are self-inflicted wounds. Why? Because they got greedy. They got greedy. Folks, as always, be safe, be well, God bless, roll those dice, roll them well. I will be back again tomorrow night, Wednesday night, 8 p.m., with a live stream. Myself, Bad Mike. I don't know if Tom Tullis is this week or next. We'll entertain you one way or the other. All right, folks. On that note, God bless.